Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen tries to get me fired and arrested. After that, Karen lets her brat eat my emergency candy stash. I'm a type 1 diabetic. And after that, are you deaf? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen will be arrested. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And huge shout out to Joseph, our newest channel member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Become a member today and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. Karen tries to get me fired and arrested. This was the very early 90s before the internet or the Karen phenomenon. I live in a small town in a rural county. I worked for a local law enforcement agency during the day and had a large retailer at night, scrubbing and waxing the floors. It was a ton of hours, but you gotta pay the bills. This afforded my wife the opportunity to work normal hours and be there to take care of our kids. Our sons were 3 and 4 at the time. One night I was particularly tired. Things were pretty much caught up at work, and I was wandering around in full zombie mode. My manager told me to go ahead and wrap up my work and clock out at midnight. I usually worked until 4 a.m. I get home about 20 minutes later to find a strange car in my driveway and a strange man in my house. I walked in my room and couldn't believe what I saw. I have always prided myself in being able to control even the most dangerous situations by talking people down and avoiding any use of force, no matter how tense things got. I just stood there and ordered him to get out of my house and take her with him. I was beyond furious, but I managed to hang on to the last strand of control that I had. As they ran out of the house, I shouted after her that she could come pick up her things from the yard in a couple of days. Fast forward 3 days. I am a total wreck. I haven't slept and barely have eaten and have been walking around borderline in shock. My wife and kids were my entire world, and it was all suddenly torn down around me. I called my supervisor at the department and told him everything that happened and asked for a few mental health days. He agreed and gave me the time off. I didn't need to be around the public in that state of mind with a weapon. We have legal insurance at work. It works like medical insurance. You pick a lawyer from a list of providers and their specialty for discounted or even free services. The lawyer I chose was in the next county in the big city. Our meeting did not go well. She advised me that even with what had happened, the court would most likely rule that since she is the mother, she gets the kids, and I would have to pay her child support, which is exactly what happened. It was a different time back then. I staggered out of her office, feeling like I had been kicked in the gut. I was already in very bad shape, and this just pushed it to 11. My mouth was very dry, and my throat felt like it would close. I desperately needed something to drink. This was a very posh part of town, very old homes and very old money. Just down the road from the yacht club and such. There were no convenience stores anywhere to be found. There was, however, a rather high-end grocery store nearby. I really did not want to be around people, but I was desperate for something to drink. I was dangerously dehydrated, so I went in. This is where our story begins. Cast of characters. We've got Cruella de Vil. We've got Nice Lady. We've got store manager, police officer, and me. Tired wreck of a man falling apart at the seams. I should start by saying that I was wearing tan khakis and a green polo shirt. The employees of this store wore either black or tan khakis and green polos with the store logo on it. A slightly different shade of green, but not enough to notice unless we were standing side by side. I was on the drink aisle staring at the bottles of Gatorade, Powerade, etc., but I wasn't really noticing anything. I was staring straight through the shelves. My mind was a million miles away. I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my left upper arm as someone grabbed me hard and tried to snatch me around. Out of instinct and training, I grabbed the wrist with my right hand, put my left hand on their upper arm, and put them into the support column next to the shelf. I quickly looked around to check my surroundings and noticed 5 or 6 customers staring at what was happening. I then looked at my attacker. It was a scrawny old lady. I released her and stepped back. Remember the original 101 Dalmatians movie? She looked very much like Cruella de Vil from that film. Hair that was obviously colored, long fake nails, and way too many rings, and a necklace that looked like a string of small Christmas ornaments. Even though she looked to be in her late 60s, she must go to aerobics or something, because she had some decent muscle tone under her saggy, overly tanned, leathery skin. As she was composing herself, I heard the nice lady behind me ask if I was okay. I turned to look at her, and she pointed at my arm. I looked down and saw blood running down my arm and dripping on the floor. When I pulled her hand off of my arm, 2 of her fake nails must have cut my skin. It wasn't actually bad, I just bleed very easily. At this point, I hear, I turned towards Cruella de Vil just in time to hear, "How dare you, peasant?" Yes, she called me a peasant. "Do you know who my husband is?" Then she reached back to take a swing at me. As she tried to slap me, I simply stepped back at the last second, causing her to miss. She lost her balance and fell forward. She knocked several drink bottles off of the shelf and fell face first into a shelf, causing her lip and nose to bleed. About this time, the manager rounded the corner and asked what was going on. Apparently, he saw her try to hit me and fall down. Cruella de Vil. "I want this troglodyte." Gotta love her vocabulary. "Fired and arrested." The manager looks at me and tells her that I do not work here. BS. He ignored me and refused to assist me. About this time, I saw a local police officer rounding the corner. Apparently, one of the customers had the store call them as soon as this all started. Officer must have been very nearby. Excellent response time. Cruella, putting on her best victim face. "Oh, thank God you're here. I am Mrs. Cruella de Vil, and I want this monster arrested. He tried to hurt me." Cue the sad puppy dog eyes and crocodile tears. Nice lady. "Excuse me, officer, that's not what happened at all. She grabbed him and—" "Stop lying to cover for him, you trollop." Her spectacular vocabulary again. Me, holding up my department ID for the officer to see. "I do not work here. I work at my local department." Me, turning to store manager and pointing up. "Do those cameras work?" Nice lady. "Excuse me, officer, see the blood on his arm?" Pointing to my scratches. "That's where she—" "Stop lying for him. My husband is Mr. Cruella de Vil, and you'll do what I say right now, or I will call him." Officer. "Ma'am, maybe it's best that we come to the manager's office to discuss this." As we all turned to leave, he asked the manager to take her to his office while he talked to me for a second. Officer, having apparently dealt with this before. "Okay, so what actually happened?" I told him and reminded him that it will all be on tape as I pointed back up to the camera mount. Nice lady. "Officer, I can tell you that she was screaming at him for a while and then attacked him for no reason. I was on the aisle and saw the whole thing." Then she looked at me. "Didn't you hear her screaming at you?" Me. "I'm sorry, I was lost in thought. I didn't notice her until she grabbed me. I also have pretty bad tinnitus from my time in the military, so that could have also contributed to me missing Cruella's gentle requests for my assistance." Officer. "Thank you, ma'am. I'll need your contact info for the report and possible testimony." Turning to me. "I'll need your info as well." I gave him one of my department business cards. He advised me to let my department know right away. He also told me that her husband is actually someone very important in the city. He was a retired city commissioner and former CEO of a big insurance agency, and that had many big city leaders, all the way up to the mayor's office, more basically in his pocket. I went directly to my supervisor's office and told him the whole story. He had me fill out an incident report and all supplemental forms. He said it sounded like a clear case of self-defense, especially if it was all on camera. She'd probably be charged since there were injuries. And that was it. Nothing else ever happened. I never heard another thing. I called my uncle, who was a longtime officer in that department and my inspiration for going into law enforcement, and he couldn't find anything about it. No police report or anything. It was all swept under the rug and forgotten. I guess the moral of the story here is that money talks. Except for 3 more quick in and out trips to the lawyer's office, I never went to that part of town ever again. Karen lets her brat eat my emergency candy stash. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I'm a family law mediator and I work at a downtown courthouse. There's no food or drink allowed and the closest store is about a mile away. Despite this, my supervisors allow me to have my own stash of candy in my office in case of emergency. I'm type 1 diabetic and sometimes I need a bit of sugar. It's just a small Ziploc bag with M&Ms. Anyway, yesterday morning I was mediating a couple over custody of their twin 8-year-olds. They all showed up in pajamas and sweats and the parents couldn't be bothered to control their kids. The twins were running around the table, standing on the chairs and spinning in them, smearing their hands on the windows, just being disruptive. At one point, they started tugging at their mom and begging for something to eat. It had only been 30 minutes. Entitled Mom: "Where's your vending machine?" Me: "We don't have any of those, I'm sorry." "Well, why not?" "Food isn't allowed in the building, ma'am, but our session is almost over." Kid 1: "She's lying, Mom. I saw food in the candy drawer." Kid 2 lit up when he heard this, ran towards me, knocking over our documents from the table and pushing my arm out of the way, and opened my candy drawer. It wasn't a candy drawer, by the way. It was just the drawer I kept my stationery supplies and my M&Ms. I stood up in between the kid and the drawer as he rummaged through it, completely irritated at this point. I closed the drawer and asked the parents if they wanted to reschedule. Entitled Dad: "You almost slammed my boy's hand over some candy." That was a gross over-exaggeration, of course. I told them I needed that candy because of my diabetes, to which Entitled Mom gave me an incredibly dirty look. "If you've got diabetes, you don't need the candy. Just let them have some for goodness sake." Me: "I'm type 1 diabetic. I'm sorry, but we're going to need to reschedule." Entitled Dad started arguing with Entitled Mom about how she always ruins everything, and Entitled Mom responded by doubling down on her stance. "She's wanting to kick us out because sugar is like drugs to diabetes." Entitled Dad and Entitled Mom continued to argue, and as I went to call in for security, Kid 1 stuck his foot out and tried to trip me. Luckily, I didn't fall, but he distracted me just enough for Kid 2 to pull open the drawer and take the bag. The twins started running around, tossing the M&Ms at each other and trying to catch it in their mouths, while the entitled parents continued to yell at each other. I called security, which stopped the entitled parents arguing. "Are you seriously calling security over candy?" I think that was the point. I lost all professionalism. Me: "I needed that in case my blood sugar gets too low. Now look, it's all over my carpet and your kid's hands." Security came up, and the twins tried to bolt out of the room, unsuccessfully. Entitled Dad and security nearly got into a fight before being forced to leave. I took my break early and got another bag of M&Ms. Speaking of M&Ms, what's your favorite candy of all time? Please let me know right now. Next we've got, are you deaf? So this just happened, and I'm actually kind of proud of it. A bit of backstory. I stay with my kids during the day and work nights. My husband and I have opposite shifts, so we can save on daycare. Because of this, I don't usually go grocery shopping during the week because it can be difficult getting my kids through the store. My daughter sometimes has meltdowns in big crowds. She doesn't have any sensory issues according to her doctor. We think she just doesn't like the noise or just gets tired easy, and that makes her fussy. I remembered that I was supposed to get party supplies for work today because one of the ladies there is going on maternity leave, and I had volunteered to help set up a party for her. So off to the store we all go, and everything goes surprisingly well. I'm getting ready to check out at the self-scanner when it happens. I feel a tap on my shoulder, followed by the "excuse me" that we all know and dread. So I turn around. My mistake. Despite the tone used, the lady seemed relatively normal. No care in haircut. Until she started talking. "Excuse me, this won't scan." I look around and she is definitely talking to me. Now, I would normally help, even if someone is rude, because why not? However, her tone and pitch was harsh enough that my daughter started clinging to my arm. My son just doesn't care. Lady: "Excuse me? Hello? A little help?" I'm just focused on my daughter, rubbing her back because I feel her start to freak out. How this lady thought I could help is beyond me. I don't work there and was dressed like I literally rolled out of bed. Fortunately, the self-checkout attendant shows up and asks what the problem is. Lady: "This won't scan, and this person," gesturing vaguely in my direction, "is no help." Lady turns back to me while the attendant tries to ring out the item for her. "You are so rude. Are you deaf or something?" At this point, I still hadn't said a word to her, and the idea hit me, like a beautiful rainbow wrapped in lightning. I'm not deaf, but me and my kids are learning American Sign Language. I just started learning it so I can ask basic questions and can sign the Baby Shark song. Don't ask, my kids love it. Smiling the biggest smile I could manage, I start signing. It makes no sense. I'm basically saying, how are you? Do you want food? What is your name? I know a little sign, Baby Shark song. I never saw someone lose color in their face so fast in my entire life. It was glorious. She got her items, paid, and practically ran out of there. The attendant trying her best not to laugh. I turned to the attendant and said cheerfully, "Have a nice day." She and I shared a good laugh and I went home. P.S. My daughter is fine. She probably just got scared. Entitled Mom says it's okay if I buy her kid a snack. I don't know either of them. My husband likes to tease me that I'm a magnet for drama, especially with entitled people. If I go out to do errands, it's almost guaranteed that I'll have a run-in with someone. I guess I just have that kind of face that lets people think, yeah, let's mess with her. Anyway, on to the first of many experiences I've had. Several years ago, when my oldest was 14, he played basketball for our local recreational center league. His team made it to the semifinals of the championship, so we had to spend most of our morning on the Saturday the games were being held. Now, the rec center isn't very large, but they decided to hold all of the playoff games there. The gym had 2 full-sized courts, which meant only 2 games could be played at a time. There was about 15 minutes before my son's game, so I took my younger son to the vending machine to get a snack. Now, because all of the games were in one spot, the time before and after each game was absolute chaos with people trying to come and go. We managed to slip through the crush and duck into the small alcove that housed the vending machines. When we arrived, there was a girl, entitled kid, already there, maybe 7 or 8. She was standing in front of the candy machine, just eyeing everything. Younger son and I stepped over to the soda machine to get him a drink, then moved over to the candy machine. Without a word, entitled kid stepped to the side to let us look. My son pointed out a Snickers bar that he wanted, so I inserted the money, pushed the right buttons, and watched the candy bar fall. Before he could bend down to grab it, entitled kid had already snatched it from the machine. Me, "Excuse me, that's not yours, sweetie." I hold out my hand for her to give it back. Entitled kid, clutching the candy. "It's okay, my mom said you could buy me a treat." Me, confused. "Who's your mom?" Entitled kid turned to point towards the crowd of people, but I couldn't see who she was supposed to be pointing to. I grabbed the candy bar back while she's not paying attention and hand it to my son, who was looking a bit confused at this point. Entitled kid began to cry, which was a homing beacon for her entitled mom. Entitled mom suddenly appeared beside her daughter. She's wearing a ton of makeup. Her blonde hair is teased and frozen in places with extra strength hairspray. She's orange from a bottle or 2 of self-tanner, and her clothes are 2 sizes too small. "What's wrong, honey?" "She took my candy bar." Entitled mom turned to me, her face already twisted in anger, but I cut her off. Me, "Is she your daughter?" Entitled mom, a bit surprised that I cut her off. "Yes." Me, "Why did you tell her that it was okay for me to buy her something? I don't know you or her. Why would I do that?" Entitled mom scoffs. Well, nothing. You're her mom. You buy her something if she's hungry." I've learned that if you don't let entitled people build up steam, they give up pretty quick. I grabbed my son and led him back to our seats in the gym. I'm not sure if entitled mom yelled after us because the noise level was high, but I didn't care. Turns out, entitled mom's son was on the opposing team, so she sat on the other side of the gym, glaring at me throughout the entire game, not cheering for her son. My son's team beat hers, by the way. How I quit selling appliances. About a week before Black Friday one year, I had a customer come into my store, really interested in redoing his whole kitchen appliance setup. I talked to him about what he needed, fridge size, etc., but it quickly became apparent that he had his mind set on a certain fridge. Size didn't matter. Okay, then came the oven, then the microwave, then the dishwasher. I didn't recommend Samsung dishwashers because at the time, they just didn't work. Told him to get the Bosch for a couple hundred less because it worked well and matched the style. He would have none of it. Part 2. We sat down at the counter with all of the model numbers written down. I find that we have tons of the models in question in stock. When I quoted him the price, he kind of chuckled and said, "Oh no, I'm not paying that." I had already applied the Samsung bundle pricing to it. We went back and forth a few times. It came out of his mouth, "I want the Black Friday pricing." And I kind of stuttered. He saw the Black Friday leak for it and wanted that pricing about a week early. I explained that I couldn't do that. Back and forth. Manager got involved. Manager just kind of waved his hand and made it happen. Part 3. Delivery was straight up for this guy. I told him I could have them delivered and installed the next day, given that he has a proper kitchen setup for the given appliances. If he has a proper water line, we can install the fridge's water line and place it. If he has a proper microwave oven head, we can install it. If he has a proper dishwasher water line and spot, it'll all work. It's all proper, he says. We set it all up with proper setups being there. Set the install and setup date for the 27th. Part 4. I get a call from a customer of mine on the 22nd. He wants to change his delivery date. Okay, let's do that. He wants a full Samsung kitchen scheduled for the 27th, changed to the 23rd. Next day delivery. I can't do that. The schedule is filled up. This guy started going crazy, and I realized who he was. This line has stuck with me for life. When I ordered these, I was told that I could get next day delivery. I'm asking for next day delivery. Why has the story changed? The story has changed because it's a different story now. I can't deliver these tomorrow. Well, I sold all of my appliances on Craigslist, and they picked them up today. I need them tomorrow. You what? I don't have any appliances for Christmas because I sold mine. I need the ones I bought now. I don't know how his Christmas went. He didn't have his appliances. He had an empty kitchen. Part 4. I was sitting at the desk checking on orders and stuff after getting back from my Christmas, and this guy sat down in the chair in front of me without my noticing. Oh, hey, can I help you? You know why I'm here. And suddenly it clicked. It was this guy. Yeah, no, hold on, I'll be back. I didn't come back. I just got my manager. My manager then railed into this guy about how he agreed to give him Black Friday pricing a week before Black Friday, about how he signed a piece of paper agreeing to take delivery a certain day, and how the next day delivery the week of Christmas was impossible. The customer then explained how his family had to go through Christmas without a kitchen because they sold their old appliances on Craigslist, and my manager just laughed at him. The dude got real mad. All said and done, he took his delivery the scheduled day. Turned out, the Samsung fridge was too large for his space. He needed a counter depth, and the fridge stuck out way too far. He didn't have a water line for the fridge, so they couldn't install the ice maker. His old microwave was not mounted correctly, and the installers would not install the microwave unless he paid to have a power line installed for it. He lost his dang mind. Part 5, or why I quit. The 30th rolled around, and I came to work to a full voicemail box and 5 voicemails about this situation ranting. I called him back, and he was just raging mad. I went into autopilot and explained that he picked out these appliances. It wasn't my fault they didn't fit. It wasn't my fault his previous microwave was hardwired like a hood, etc., etc. I gave him a new fridge that fit for the same price. He was upset that it was a smaller capacity. I explained it was what his kitchen allowed. I took a hit on commission for this order to fulfill this for him, etc. I set up the new delivery for the next day, New Year's Eve. He didn't want delivery on New Year's Eve. He wanted it today, and the following exchange took place. Because you guys have messed this up, my wife has to work tomorrow, New Year's Eve. Normal people don't have to work New Year's Eve, and now she does, so I can't take delivery tomorrow. Well, I work tomorrow too, I understand. Yeah, you do. I want them today. I can't do that. I can do New Year's Day or the day after. We're not taking time out of our New Year's Day to do this. Make it the 2nd. And after going home that day, I just stopped going back into work and got drunk because this guy so successfully broke me down that I didn't really want to live anymore. Edit, I'll clarify. We offered next day delivery and installation in general. This was offered to the customer at the time of purchase. Okay, that's nice. Can I go back to work now? Firstly, a few things. I am a 4'11" woman with a baby face. I am wearing my work uniform the entire time through this story. I'm petty. I work in a small shop with a very small range of customers. The shop specializes in a hobby mainly of middle-aged men. One day, an older woman came into the shop and asked to see Brian, name changed, to help her get her husband a gift. Today was Brian's day off, and I was the only person in at the moment as the others were unloading stock. Me. I'm sorry, ma'am. Brian isn't in today. I can help you. Oh, what would a young lady like you be doing here? My, you look 10. Me. Yes, I get mistaken a lot. But what do you need help with? No. I want Brian. He works here. Ma'am, I work here. Don't lie. Where's the manager? I am the manager. True. Oh, shush. You don't work here. You don't even have the right uniform on. I was wearing the bright blue uniform with the logo on it. Eventually, she just let me help her, and then started saying that I was obviously lying, but it was kind of me to help her. She kept talking to me while I was helping some other customers. Me. That's nice, ma'am. Now please let me do my job. Oh, stop lying. She went on at me for a while, so I decided to tell her a little white lie. Me. Ma'am, you really are right about me. Honestly, I can't believe you figured it out. And I was asked to work here to see if someone could figure it out. Now you've won a prize. Oh my, really? Yes, here is the rest of the set for your husband, totally free. She was so excited and left the store thanking me. I then paid for the set I gave her. It was just replaceable characters, in case of duplicates being needed. Edit. The woman was a little rude to me, but overall she was very sweet. I just wanted her to leave because I had to close the store soon. It was the last shift. Edit 2. The woman's husband came in today and apologized for some of the things his wife said to me. He then thanked me for the extra figures because he wanted duplicate sets for his brother and son. Karen gets mad she can't return costume the day before Halloween. First things first, I've worked for the same Halloween company for 4 years. The first year we were open, we didn't accept any returns or exchanges at all, but the next 3 we did them, but within a certain time frame. Plus, you needed to have your receipt. This last year, our return policy was printed out on the receipt and there was a huge sign directly behind the checkout counter. So, now that I've set the scene, we've got Entitled Woman and we've got me. Entitled Woman walks in with her bag and receipt in hand and stands in the very long line. Me. I can help whoever is next. Yeah. Hi, I'd like to return this. Throws a bag on the counter. Well, unfortunately, as it's the day before Halloween, I can't return it for you. Well, why not? It says on the receipt that you guys do returns or exchanges. Yes, but look. She shoves the receipt in my face. It was already towards the end of the Halloween season, and I was already done with everything and everyone at this point. So I'm not too proud of the way I talked to her, but it is what it is. And it made me feel really good to sort of stand up for myself. Me. Yeah, and if you keep reading, it says up to 7 days before Halloween. And today is the day before Halloween, making it less than 7 days, so I can't return it for you. Well, how am I supposed to know that? Who looks at the receipt anyway? I bought these costumes on the 25th, so you should allow me to return it. Me. Well, whoever rung you up should have informed you all sales were final, and unfortunately we can't do any returns. I'm sorry if they didn't, but there isn't anything I can do to help you. This is BS. She continued to yell at me for not doing the return for her. I was already frustrated, and if she had been nice from the beginning, then I probably would have done it for her, with a valid explanation. Me. Well, I'm really not supposed to do this, being as it's the day before Halloween, but if you want to exchange it for something of equal or greater value, then I can do that for you. But I will not give you any money back. No, there is nothing that I want. Give me a return. You're stealing from me. Robbing me of my money. Well, I'm sorry, ma'am. There's absolutely nothing I can do to help you then. Well, is there a phone number I could call? Yeah, I'm sure if you Google it, there's a number that'll pop up. Have a nice day now. I've got lots of people behind you. I hope you know you just ruined my kid's Halloween, and you're a terrible person. I don't know how you can sleep at night. Speaking of Halloween, what was the last costume you wore? Please let me know. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day, Fire Ice, Sonia, and Maddie. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many reads as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.